because of my big legs.
And karate.
I can do the splits, no problem.
I know you like to look at yourself on television, you sick son of a bitch.
Don't do it. I saw the look in his eyes. This guy's crazy. He's fucking crazy.
Crazy.
Where are you from anyway? Are you from France or Canada or...
A drink to that?
No problem.
Jean-Claude Van Damme, girl.
Now take your big stick and your boyfriend and find a bus to catch.
Welcome to another episode of JCVDG, episode 2. Sort of episode 1, because the first episode was really more of like a practice round or just like a little intro. So this could even be the inaugural episode. This could be us getting into the arena for the first time. Some very nice comments already, and people hit me up online who said they enjoyed the first one about Delta Force. Thank you very much. I'm excited, man. I really, really am. I had so much fun doing this episode. I have my guest Craig Conant on there. In fact, let me just introduce it like this. Your mission this week, should you choose to accept it, is to hear me and comedian Craig Conant discuss the 1993 Van Damme film Hard Target, a movie that kind of sucks, but is worth it because Van Damme's got the most incredible mullet, I would say, in cinematic history. I'm hard pressed to know if anyone can beat Van Damme's mullet in Hard Target. It says, I mean, maybe there's like a truck driving documentary out there that I'm not aware of that is better, but woo! This is a mullet. This is a mullet for the ages. I wish I could get the director John Woo on the podcast and just be like, all right, but seriously though, why the mullet? What were you? Who told you that's what was a good idea? Was there other haircuts? Did you experiment with, I don't know, a hat? I mean, it's just unbelievable, but it works. It makes you remember the movie. And, you know, look, it's not a movie that's like so bad that it's good. It's just kind of like not that good. Although there are some incredible scenes, and I think it has one of the best final scenes in Van Damme movie history, which we'll get into later. So a little bit about Hard Target. The original source material was a short story by Richard Conant called The Most Dangerous Game, which is about a guy, a crazy hunter dude, who lures guests to a remote island and makes a game out of hunting them. So he's basically like creates his own human hunting ground. It's really fucked up and dark. And I remember reading it freshman year of English class in high school and just thinking it was like actually one of the few things that we read in school that I actually liked, mostly because it was like an action movie. It's been made quite a few times into movies. In 1932, it was made as a movie called The Most Dangerous Game. Then in 1945, they made it as a movie called A Game of Death. And then in 1956, they remade it again, calling it Run for the Sun. So Hollywood has been just recycling its old bullshit for many, many years, apparently. It's not just now. This is the Hollywood, we have no original ideas of our own thing has been going on for a long time. So this iteration of it came out in 93, and it involves a group of rich contract hunters led by the villain Emile Fouchon, who's preying on what they're doing is, and we'll talk about this more when Craig's on here, but we talk about it. But it's basically like they offer homeless people $1,000 or $10,000 on a belt, and they say if you can make it to the river before we kill you, you get to keep that money. And then the rich clients basically try to hunt them down. It's fucked up, but great exercise. Being here in quarantine, I'll tell you, these homeless motherfuckers in this movie, they are running a lot more than I am. But then again, no one's hunting me. Some other interesting things about Hard Target. It was directed by John Woo, like I said, and he was, when he directed this movie, the first Asian director to helm a major studio feature film. So long before Crazy Rich Asians, John Woo was the first Asian director of a major studio film with Hard Target. Not going to say knocked it out of the park, but he did make some other really good movies later in Hollywood, mostly Face Off, Mission Impossible 2, and then Paycheck, which I never saw, and then Broken Arrow, which I never saw, but I heard it was terrible. John Woo, though, legendary director, he's known as the father of gung fu cinema, which is all, close quarter, like gunplay. It's kind of like basically, if you haven't seen any of his films, like The Killer, which is like the one that really broke him out internationally, it's all like sort of a mixture of like martial arts and close quarter guns. If you like John Wick, you owe John Woo a big thank you note, because he basically invented that style of action scenes. And while I will say his films he's made in Hong Kong are better, I think he's still made some good films here in America and continues to do so. He had some interesting things to say about making the film with Van Damme. This is, I'm quoting all this from some article in 2018 where he's basically pushing for his original super violent cut of the movie to be released. And it was the 25th anniversary, and he did this article. And one thing I thought was interesting is he originally wanted Kurt Russell for the role of Van Damme, which is hard to really imagine when you watch a movie because it's just a fuckload of kicking and Van Damme shit that Kurt Russell, even though he's great, couldn't really pull off. Although he could definitely pull off the mullet. I think Kurt Russell's probably molded it up in a few films. If I can, I can't think of the names, but he's always got that kind of scraggly cut. One thing he said was he wasn't used to Hollywood stars having all the power. I guess in Hong Kong, where he was used to making films, the director is the guy. But he said Van Damme was clearly running the show, and he even said on some shots he'd have 4 cameras set up, and Van Damme, God bless him, JCVD, not G, that's me, that's right, JCVD, he would insist on one of the 4 cameras exclusively being on his bicep at all times. Like he'd say, this camera is only to film my oily bicep, sacrificing whatever else John Woo hoped to do with that camera. And John Woo said that he had to do it, and he said he never used anything off the bicep camera. So we're all, somewhere there's just a 12-hour sizzle reel of just Van Damme's biceps, so we got to get our hands on it at some point. This movie apparently was one that took 7 cuts to get down to an R rating, which surprises me because I don't really find it that graphically violent. So, God, I wonder what was in the other 7 cuts. Of course, it was 93. I feel like you could do less at that time. One thing this movie does very, very well, in a very, very bad way, is the fight scenes are just ultimate examples of Van Damme going up against 5 dudes and then them each coming at him one at a time. It's like they're just drawing straws. Like, you attack first, I'll go second, then you third. And I love, that's a classic thing in almost all these old action movies, but this one really doubles down on it. But like I said, it makes up for it with the final scene. It's awesome. Van Damme and the bad guys, they have their final showdown in this warehouse where they have all these old Mardi Gras floats. Super creative, super creepy. It's like you're in this big haunted house with all these colorful sort of like demon, New Orleans sort of Mardi Gras characters everywhere. And it is, it's very cool, and it makes up for it. And also the bad guys are really good in this. I think the villains, this is one of those movies where the villains almost carry the movie a little bit. So yeah, it was definitely worth it for that in general. With that said, we're going to dive into me and Craig Conant discussing it. Craig's a hilarious comedian. He's got his own great podcast. And I love doing this, man. I'm excited. Coming up soon, we got Amir K, comedian Amir K. We're going to be talking about Commando. So dig into that. Please keep telling your friends about the podcast. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Me and Craig Conant, hard target. Get it. When you're in quarantine, it's like all you do is talk to your friends basically on a podcast anyway.
Yeah.
Because you're just FaceTiming with each other. So you're like, might as well just fucking record the shit. You know what I mean? Turn that into a show.
The podcast has been saving me. If I didn't have that during quarantine, oh my God.
What are you going nuts the most about during this time?
Well, the daytime's normal. Comic life, not much going on. I water my garden and play with my cat. But then nighttime, we go do shows. It's our livelihood. Right. It's our passion. We are a rare breed that have figured out how to make a living out of doing what we love, and that was taken away from us.
I do love that your daytime activities sound exactly like my mom's.
I'm an old lady now. I retired from the crazy
This is playing
stuff
with the cat and doing. What are you gardening these days?
I just redid my garden. I have jasmine bush, gardenia bush, some pink polka dot ivy.
Oh,
It's cute. It's cute
that
stuff.
does sound pretty adorable,
Yeah,
man.
just smell good, pretty stuff, you know.
I love it. So you were doing jasmine gardening, and then you came in to watch Hard Target.
Oh God, thanks for that, Jam. You couldn't have chose Terminator 2, huh? No,
I mean,
I
look,
love Jean-Claude Van Damme.
He's the best. He is the best. That movie, I want to get in John Woo's head. That on that movie is just so fucking bizarre.
It's so weird. The thing that made me mad, it had a chance to be like really, really good and dark and like a real, and then he just turned it into a soap opera, cheesiest jazz shit I've ever seen in my life. And
You're right. That when you say that, you're so right that soundtrack, he is trying to do like this jazz sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like it's a guy who doesn't understand New Orleans trying to do New Orleans.
And I love shitty action movies. And that was pushing the fucking envelope, bro. I was like, oh my God.
Big hit, Craig.
Big hit.
74 million
I know.
off an $18 million budget.
I saw every Jean-Claude movie in theaters until like Sudden Impact or Sudden Death, the hockey arena one. I was the biggest Double Impact, Bloodsport, Kickboxer, The Quest, all of them.
I was trying to, because once I've started doing this podcast, I've just been trying to watch so many action movies, and I got my poor fiance watching these movies, and she I've been trying to describe, so I'm like, oh, we gotta watch Double Impact. She's like, what's that? I'm like, Jean-Claude and Jean-Claude.
Yeah.
Two Jean-Claude.
It's
She's like,
the
no
shit.
fucking way. No one did that. I'm like, oh yeah, dude, it's great.
The best. Lionheart. Remember Lionheart?
We just watched Lionheart.
Oh.
Fascinating thing with Lionheart, and this is something I'm noticing a lot with these action movies, and particularly Jean-Claude. He never gets laid and actively doesn't get laid. Like in Lionheart, there's this hot blonde girl who keeps trying to sleep with him, and he's just sort of like, no, I'm not playing your games. I'll stay in the other room. And you're like, what kind of...
You're like,
so
come on, John. It's a gorgeous woman.
Just do it to do it. Like,
Yeah.
You're not married. She's not married. I mean, what else you got to do?
I
Your
never
next fight's
noticed
not
that.
telling that. Yeah, it's bizarre.
weird.
There's a big lack of getting laid in a lot of these movies, including the one that we're talking about, Hard Target. He doesn't sleep with that girl.
No, and she's gorgeous. That girl pissed me off so much, dude. When she was supposed to run to call the sheriff, and
Let's back it up. Let's tell people the plot, right? So we're talking about Hard Target, and I'll just give you guys a little IMDb thing. A woman hires a drifter as her guide through New Orleans in search of her father.
a cool,
who has
handsome drifter with a mullet.
the weirdest haircut in action movie history. And then he basically takes her on this mission. It turns out, the whole plot is strange. It's basically like there's these rich people who have like a side business where they basically get homeless people who are desperate. They give them $10,000 on their belt. And they say, if you can make it to the river without getting killed, well, you can keep the $10,000. And then other rich people hunt the homeless people through the city of New Orleans, which apparently has no police officers whatsoever.
None or one.
You're one woman.
cop.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The scariest thing about this movie is I believe wholeheartedly that this canon probably does exist. This, like, you got those sick rich fuckers hunting albino rhinos and lions and gorillas and this and that. Why wouldn't they take the leap, those sick bastards? I have no proof, no evidence. I know I sound like a
No,
nut.
I believe you. Where do you think it's happening? Like, what country, what state, what city?
Just
where is the
impoverished countries? It's
Yeah.
just the guy said it the best. He's like, let's go to Eastern Europe. We could work there for years. And I was like, that's so scary that's probably true.
But that's the movie Hostel,
yeah.
right? It's Eastern Europe, and it's just like they get travelers, and they, rich people come over and they torture and kill fucking
God,
travelers and
what's
stuff.
wrong with this world? Come on, garden, get a kitty, torture. Come on, how's that
Dude,
a
it's
hobby?
the world is not on your Zen path, man. That's why we need Jean-Claude in this movie with this crazy mullet. He's a drifter. Now, one of my favorite things about Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, and Arnold, you're going to see this too, they have to come up with a story for why he has the accent.
Now take your big stick and your boyfriend and find a bus to catch.
It's always like, I was stationed and I'm an American GI, but I grew up. You know, they always have to have this elaborate plot thing. So in this one, I think this is the only Jean-Claude Van Damme movie where he is actually a native U.S. citizen. He was born and raised in New Orleans or in the swamps with a French uncle.
Yeah.
So that makes sense why he talks like he's just off a boat for France.
This might have been the only movie where his accent made sense. All the rest are like, what?
Right, his accent makes sense, but then you're like, nothing else about it made sense. He's just like a drifter who's kind of a piece of shit, but has no issues. Like, he's not a drug addict. We don't have we don't know anything about his past. He's
handsome, ripped drifter with the most insane mullet I've ever seen that just saves that lady from getting gang raped in daylight outside a restaurant, you know?
Right. And he does the thing too, which is so great. This is how the movie starts, where, you know, when he basically meets the woman that he's gonna help find out who killed her father, whatever. He sees these thugs casing her in like a restaurant, and he realizes those guys are gonna jump her, right? So what he does is Jean-Claude goes out to the street, waits for her to get jumped, then saves the day. And why didn't he just go up there and go, hey, those guys in the corner, they're going to jump.
Yeah,
her.
why
So
did
just,
he wait?
Maybe don't walk outside.
Why did he wait for them to break her nose or lip or just, oh my God. And back to what you said, where are the cops? This is like noon on
There's
the
no
street.
cops.
It's not nighttime. They're not at a warehouse. It's just, is this just a lawless city? Is there just no justice? It's crazy.
You know, it's a shame. This used to be such a nice part of town.
I've been in New Orleans, or I haven't been in New Orleans, but I've seen Mardi Gras. I've seen other. It doesn't look like a barren place. Like there's people out, but in this movie, it's like desolate streets.
Yeah,
no one around to hear you scream. Thank God, Jean-Claude has finished his coffee and his mullet's blowing in the breeze.
That he paid for with nickels and dimes and pennies.
That was an interesting. Part of the movie.
He tipped her 7 cents.
So what I love about you, man, is you have a very fun, go with the flow, happy demeanor. And so I wasn't surprised at all when I texted you and I said, "Are you an action movie guy?" And you're like, "Yeah, that's all I do is watch action movies." I was like, "Fuck yeah, that makes sense."
I watch them too much, bro. There's something wrong with me. I remember saying to Fahim Anwar at the Comedy Store, I said, I've been watching John Wick a lot lately, and he, of course, is sharp and with it, and he's like, that's not a TV show, man. That's a movie. Like, you got, I was like, it's a good one. He's like, that's not Ozark, you know? Like, what are you doing? I was like, it's so good.
What is it, man? Because I'm like, yeah, I'm so content to just watch basically the same plot over and over, which is something, guy gets involved, gets bad, guy fucking saves the day, guy rides off into the sunset. You know, so many action movies follow such a similar kind of trajectory, but I don't get bored of it.
I love it.
It's like, I love it.
I watch them over and over again. I could watch John Wick 20 more times. I've probably already seen it 20 times. I can't stop. It's something.
And yet, I should have asked you to discuss that one instead of going down this
it's okay.
Hard Target.
It's more to make fun of. It's just like, what? You know?
What about Hard Target? Was there anything in the movie that connected you to a moment of your own? Like, have you ever tried to save a woman from a situation? Like, have you ever gotten involved like that as a man? Have you ever had a moment where you knew some bad shit was going to go down and you were kind of a hero about it?
I'm definitely not with violence, but I've actually like saved women from uncomfortable situations with just creeps. You know, just the little like, hey, come over here, I got to tell you something, and then just to get them out of the just like.
I think that counts. That's like that's like the modern equivalent of a Jean-Claude fucking jump kick in the air, just sort of being like, hey, get away from that scumbag.
Yeah.
I think that counts as heroism.
It's something I've never understood, but I'm also not a woman, and I could never, begin to imagine what it's like to walk in their shoes, but like, just walk away, just say, no, thank you. Bye. And like, and I have 2 older sisters, and so many times they just stick around to talk. It's like, nah, that guy's a scumbag. Go talk to that handsome fucker. He's nice. Or whatever.
By the way, is there anything worse than when you're the guy, and not like you're being a creep, but you're just the guy that she doesn't want to talk to, and you see her signaling to her friend, like, get me the fuck out of here.
Oh,
like, come grab me, and you're like, I can see you guys doing fucking signals and shit. Like, I understand what's going on.
I'm good at that. I'll make an inquiry, and they're like, no thanks. I'm like, all right, cool, on to the next. I don't give a fuck. I won't like the guys that keep doing it. I also don't want to sound like a cock block. I mean, if a guy's trying to get pussy, go, have fun. But like, I'm talking about we all know the creepers. I don't want to name names, but they're just like these. They're like, yo, dude, she doesn't like you, and you look like a predator. Like, what are you doing? Like, there's a difference. And I could take a hint. It's like, okay, fine, I'll hit on your friend then. It doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. I know sometimes you want to be like, you don't have to be so polite about it. Just say
no, thank you.
I'm good.
Yeah. I will leave you the fuck alone. And I never understood the guys that can't take a hint. I'm like, bro, it's clueless bastards.
I once had a situation where I wouldn't say I defended a woman's honor, but I did have a situation where, like, I was at this party. I got off work and at this coffee shop in San Francisco, Pete's Coffee, and this girl had invited me to this, like, she owned a flower shop down the street. And she's like, you should come down there and, come to a party afterwards. We're going to throw a party in the flower shop, which is already kind of cool, So I go in there, and it turns out to be like this weird sort of swinger vibe. Like, it's clearly like old, like kind of like they were older than me at the time. They were like in their 40s, sort of swinger Bay Area people, kind of rich. And there's a lot of like, just like, couples sort of making out with different couples. And it's kind of like, whoa, like this is fucking intense, And I end up like talking to this girl, and we end up making out a little bit. This is when I was still kind of putting together the pieces of this being a swingers party. I didn't really understand what was going on. And so I'm like, okay, cool, I'm making out with this girl. And then this guy just sort of walks by me and just like bangs into me, like, all right, I go back to kiss her, and he bangs into me again. Anyway, connect the dots. Turns out it was her husband who was like not handling the theme of the party well.
Why is he at a swingers party?
100%. I mean, that's why I would never bring my fiance to a swingers party, because I would be that guy. I wouldn't be able to handle it.
I don't understand that. I mean, like, I get it. We all want to fuck a bunch of people, but like, that's my wife,
Right. I just don't know how these swinger couples do it. So, I mean, because then you're going home the next day and your wife's like kissing your kids goodnight, and you're like, gee, what's sucking that guy's dick in front of me?
Yeah, I could never do that. Fuck that.
And so this guy, basically, we end up getting in this fight in this flower shop, and I'm almost like defending his wife's honor from him, but then it's his wife.
Yeah.
And it was fucking bizarre. It was like 2 guys got in a fight over a woman who didn't want either of them to fight for her in any regard.
That's a weird love triangle, bro.
It was.
You should have just took a rose and walked out, man.
Yeah. I mean, this is the moral of the story is, don't be jealous to go to a swingers party, and also don't probably go to a swingers party alone and expect that to go well, because people are going to
be like, all right, you got my wife. Where's your wife?
Right.
You're like,
you're the guy.
Gotcha.
I saw a loophole in the Matrix. Because basically at that point you're like the guy just double dipping. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, you're not even respecting you're not respecting the dip right now.
That's so weird. I get it, but I could never do it. It's just like,
dude, it was such a great fight because it was like in a flower shop. So it was so cinematic.
Yeah.
Like he tackled me and I slammed into this vase, and like all these flowers went flying and vases are smashing, and then I tackled him. And he wasn't a big guy, so I had like an advantage, and I'm not a good fighter. It was like one of the only fights I ever actually won. And I remember I was like punching him, and then my glasses were falling off because I wore glasses at the time. So I was like,
hang on.
That's what's so great about action movies. The fights are so clean.
Yeah.
It's just like, it takes a guy out and he's knocked out like that. It's never like, fuck my wrist. Shit, I tore my fucking groin while jump kicking you and I'm in jeans. How did my leg get up that high, you know?
Yeah, I've seen fights where the guy who beat the shit out of the guy messes his hands up so bad that he ends up being the loser because he has to get stitches and he broke his wrist and it got infected, and it's just like, it's not clean. I happened to a buddy of mine. He beat up a guy and then his hand was wrecked for like 6 months. It's like, I don't think you won that one, bro. You're the one who had to get surgery, you know?
I won. Then my prize was $30,000 of medical bills.
Yup.
Oh, man. So, yeah, and Van Damme in this movie, I mean, it's just like a class. I mean, I always try to think about action movies in terms of a gun movie or fight movie, you know? This movie, I would say, is... I think it's more... It's a good mix. Yeah, it's a good mix because, like, the other bad guys are not like... It's not like Van Damme goes up against other karate guys. Although they do have, like, a great thing in that scene we were talking about where he saves her the day against the, you know, those kind of rapist scumbags who are attacking her. One of them does just bust out some fucking... kung fu kicks and shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, but that guy was like a derelict Louisiana alcoholic. Well, like everybody knows fucking karate down here?
Yeah, there's some plot holes, John Woo. I don't know if this is your finest work, man.
No, that's what's interesting about how bad this movie is because John Woo is probably one of the best directors.
He's a legend, yeah.
Of any of the Van Damme movies. Like he's like, you know, he was a really legendary director at the time. But yeah, this is a strange one. All right, let's go through our list. So what I try to break down, you know, I'm breaking down these movies in terms of like, you know, the things you gotta talk about in regard to every action movie. So first of all, let's start with soundtrack.
Brutal.
Horrible, right?
Brutal. It was bad.
Yeah, it just doesn't have any build to it. You know, it's that weird sort of like, I guess it's like a jazz guitar lick.
It's like softcore porn. It's like, what is this, Skinamax? Like, what's going on here?
That's a very good point. Now, that soundtrack meets Jean-Claude's haircut. And it's so porny.
And his sexy accent. And he's always in a tank top. It's like, hey, buddy, get some sleeves.
Dude, I would way rather watch the Jean-Claude Hard Target porn. And Hard Target sounds like a fucking porn.
It does, yeah. It was a porno. It was just a porno with flames.
Maybe John Woo was like, oh yeah, we'll go down to America and make a porno. And like and he was speaking like a different language, so there was like a miscommunication. Yeah. They're like, yeah.
No.
Okay.
The girl, not the guy. No, yeah.
Right. No, I wanted the homeless guys to fuck. I didn't want them to be running towards the river. That's
homeless
not what
guys
I was
are
doing.
tan and ripped. Get them out there.
So I'm definitely with you. It's definitely, soundtrack is lacking. Last week I was watching Delta Force, and that's a great soundtrack. All right, next topic, guns. What do you think in terms of guns for this movie?
A lot of Berettas. I love me some Berettas. I do love guns. I'm not an expert. I do not own one. I can't wait, but I'm scared. I play with it too much. I watch too many action movies. I'll accidentally shoot my cat or my leg off, and I'm like, oh, fuck, you know?
Did you ever watch the original 90210 when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Do you remember they had that episode where the kid...
Yup. And everybody
Check
said that would be you.
Bam!
Even recently, people were like, no, you would be that kid. Like, yeah! It's not loaded. Cool. Oh, fuck.
So you think you would shoot yourself playing around with it, not like on purpose?
Absolutely. I'm not, I got a dark mind, but I ain't gonna check out like that. But I absolutely would probably play with it all the time.
Yeah.
I grew up watching these movies, Commando and Rambo. I can't not hold it, you know? It's like, ooh.
And I was with Delta Force last week. One of my favorite things is Chuck Norris in the backseat. And I don't know if you've seen Delta Force, but that's a fucking great movie.
I haven't seen it in ages. I'll rewatch it. I used to watch so much Chuck Norris. I watched Walker, Texas Ranger for like 7 or 8 years, bro. I'm not proud of it, but I love...
I watched a lot of it too. 196 episodes.
It was on for like over a decade, I think.
Yeah. That one is one of those shows that you were like, oh, is a rerun? Oh, no, they're still making the show.
Yeah. It's crazy.
But there's a scene in Delta Force where he's like reloading the gun and he's in the back seat and there's the driver in front of him. You're like, oh, he's just pointing that fucking Uzi like right at that guy's head while they're having this conversation.
Yeah.
that's not gun safety.
No.
You know, and I'm sure, yeah, if I had a gun, I would be doing that kind of shit. It would be constantly like, oh, let me clean this fucking thing.
They're fun, man. I've been shooting a bunch. It's so fun. Like, they don't tell you that. I don't want any mass shootings and I don't want any murder, but it's fucking fun. It's so fun.
Where are you going to shoot guns?
I went to LAX firing range in Inglewood several times. There's one in Torrance off of Western. I forgot what it's called. And I've been out in the boonies, Oak Tree Gun Club, and they do outdoor skeet shooting. Dude, it's fun. It's so fun. It's adrenaline.
They better start giving you better spots at the Comedy Store, man.
They better, man. When they open up. But the crazy thing about shooting is like, you think it's such a violent activity, but you are truly, it's a weird, like, peaceful moment, because you cannot focus on anything else in your life, you know, whether it's financial, women's trouble, guys' troubles, whatever, because you're just truly in the moment. I know it's weird, but it's something zen about shooting, because you can't focus on anything else, because you just have to practice on your breathing, being still, and aiming and pulling the trigger and not shooting your leg, you know? So it's very weird how it's peaceful, and it's such a violent activity. This is at the gun range.
That's interesting. That does make sense, because, yeah, I mean, the few times I have shot, I mean, you have to keep your hands steady and not, like...
You're in the moment, and you're focusing on your breath work, which is weird. It's like some... you know, yoga, violent experience.
Yeah, I know.
It's fun.
And then, I mean, yes, okay. So maybe in a different life, you would have been a sniper, maybe. Maybe you would have been like a really chill.
Mine is shooting people's heads off. I don't want to kill anybody, but I just really love guns.
You're like, no, I just joined the army for the meditative, sort of like the peacefulness. No, I didn't want to actually do that. You signed up to go to Vietnam? I was trying to really just deal with some stuff.
I just wanted a 30-06 rifle, man. Like, I didn't want to kill anybody.
Oh, man, that's so true about fucking, like, guns and how much you have to put into shooting them accurately compared to how you see it in these movies, right? Because I remember I once was doing stand-up out in Indiana. I got to shoot a Tommy gun, and those motherfuckers are so heavy. Yeah. It's just like, it's so much work just to hold it up. And then, you know, when you see like the Untouchables and the guy comes in there with two Tommy guns.
Yeah. It is not easy to hit a target. They do not tell you that. In all these action movies, you could be 30 feet away from a guy and shoot right at him and miss him, all of them. It is not easy. That's why it's crazy.
Well, what about the guy, all right, since we're still on guns, like what about the bad guy who's got the guy who plays Pick? The way he hunt the fucking the crossbow. Oh, remember not Pick. The guy in the beginning who hunts the homeless guy. He's got that crossbow thing.
That's badass. I do love me some archery. I've done it at church camp when I went to church when I was a kid. That shit is fun as fuck.
Yeah, churches love archery.
The dumb guy with the one bullet gun. I get it. It's a hand cannon, but one bullet, dude.
Yeah, that didn't make sense.
That was so annoying. One bullet.
But I admire the fucking confidence of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like, I'm not gonna miss.
Yeah.
But the gun that I liked was the guy who played Pick, which he's got like such a scary fucking real life name. His name is Arnold Vosloo.
Which one was Pick? Was that his go-to head henchman?
Yeah, he was his go-to henchman, Arnold Vosloo, who's been in a shitload of these movies. And then the other, we'll get into villains in a second, but he had that pump action shotgun, which was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a Mossberg. I'm not an expert, but that looked beautiful.
It was gigantic.
Yeah,
you know, it wasn't like the Arnold Schwarzenegger cutoff one. It was just like this fucking cannon.
Yeah.
And he definitely blew that guy's head off from point break range. That was a pretty sweet little moment. The big fat schlub, he was trying to flee town.
Oh my
you know what I mean?
God, yeah.
That's always the best part, like in a movie where you see like the guy like packing his shit and getting ready to get out of town, and he's like gets the car on and he turns, he's looking in the windows, and you just know,
wakey, you fat fuck!
It's the bad guy, boom, right there.
That always annoys me. If your life is in that much danger,
don't pack.
Don't pack. Just go.
Right.
What are you doing?
And we saw you make all that money last scene.
Yeah.
You've got money. Just fucking get the fuck out of there. You know, that's a very good point. Why such fastidious packing?
I don't get it. It drives me nuts. Run. Wear all black. Run.
Right.
Don't look back. Don't take your car.
These guys are psychos. They're going to kill me. Where is my Afghan?
Yeah. Oh, no, I need my lucky hoodie.
Right.
It's going to be cold. Buy new shit. You're going to die.
You saw that guy eat that dude's face last scene. Like, just fucking, it's worth it. Just get the fuck out of there. Or that was the guy that cut his ear off, right?
Yep.
That was fucking brutal.
That was brutal.
Oh, don't worry about Randall. He's all ears.
All right, so guns. I'm going to give Voslo the fucking shotgun. Next topic, chases.
It drove me nuts that when they were chasing him through the woods, the snake part was pretty cool. Of course, unrealistic, but
let's not just breeze past the snake part. That was one of the most ridiculous scenes in any movie I've ever seen.
He punches it and knocks it out.
Yeah, this is described to people watching on YouTube. How could I describe this? So there's a fucking rattlesnake like this that comes up, and it's like it's gonna get him, and Van Damme gives it.
He slaps it,
and
then punches it.
Punches the snake in the face,
and
they make it go,
and it knocks us out. Yeah.
Is it dead?
Come on.
It's unbelievable.
Then he bites the rattler off, and then he Jimmy rigs it up in a tree.
Yeah. Why did he do that? Why did he have to bite the rattler? Oh, so the rattler, so they didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I thought that, and then I was like, oh, I get it. I was like, oh, just leave that rattlesnake alone. You already punched him.
What I do like about that chasing, though, is Van Damme's on a horse, and they're in like a helicopter.
Yeah.
Right? They're coming. I mean, that is such a that's a funny matchup. You know what I mean?
What drove me nuts about that is they had enough time to contact all the rich, murderous bastards to come on this hunt. Like, how did they get them so fast? That part pissed me off.
Yeah, I know. Were they all on like a kidney transplant list?
Yeah.
They're just ready to fucking go?
They all pop up in 30 minutes or less. Like,
Have you ever been in a chase situation yourself where you had to fucking make a getaway?
I've ran from the police several times, yes.
Did you have a horse? Were you ever on a horse doing a chase?
It's funny that you say that. They were on horses, and they
Really?
Yeah, this is a true story. It's one of my bits. I threw firecrackers at police on horses in Hermosa Beach. It's one of the reasons I'm sober too. And then they chased me down and they got me. And I've ran from them several times, and I've gotten caught almost every single time. But I got away once or twice.
So when they caught you on horseback, did they throw you over the back of the horse like a Wild West fucking villain being brought back to town?
No, that would have been amazing. They just threw me they called the squad car. They threw me in the drunk tank.
Did you throw any firecrackers back at them as you were running? Was there any of this going on?
I actually was so hammered that I lit off firecrackers, threw them on the ground, and then they started exploding. It was like a John Woo movie. They started exploding. I walked through the smoke. I failed to notice a posse of sheriffs right there, just like 50 feet away. I was like, oh, fuck. So it was completely accidental. I don't say that in my bits for funny stuff, you know.
Right.
But I was just like, oh, Jesus Christ, like, just let me get through this. I'll never do a drug. I'll never do this. Then some guy said it was the guy with the backpack, and then they chased me and they got me, and but it got me sober and into stand-up, and I'm not joking.
That's amazing. So how long ago was that?
Shoot, that was like 10 years ago.
Wow. So you've been sober for 10 years?
No, it took some time, buddy. I've been sober 6 years. It took me like
That's good. I've been sober just about 5. So
nice.
Yeah, bro.
It's a process. It took me a while to get into stand-up. I like tried it, and I was so scared of it that I went to Second City and UCB, and then went through their programs, and then came back and started hitting it hard because I was just such a pussy and terrified of being alone on the stage.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you were already. Well, I guess you weren't. Yes, you were basically already sober by the time you really started doing a lot of stand-up, which is good.
Yeah,
because stand-up can get you back on the fucking.
Oh
sauce.
my God, I was so grateful that when I finally did dive in with all my mind, body, soul into stand-up, that I was sober. I probably only did stand up a half dozen times intoxicated, and then I got sober, and that's pretty much when I started hitting it every night of my life.
Now that you're quarantined, is there any fucking like, oh God, fucking.
Oh, dude, I've been
drink
tempted to smoke weed. So it's just like.
Oh, you don't smoke weed even?
No.
Dude, that's wild. You always seem like you're fucking high to me when I talk to you. I always think I always feel like you're just fucking burnt. Like you got that Big Lebowski feeling where you just burned one right before you came to the store.
I feel like nobody believes me. It's really annoying. But I started smoking weed at 12 years old and I stopped at 29. So it's just kind of in my DNA now. You know, I'm not even trying to be funny. It's just.
No, I know a lot of guys
that toll, man. I'm a sober hippie.
That's fucking beautiful. I mean, it saves you the money if you've already like turned your brain into like kind of permanent stone, so you can have to smuggle it to the airport, you know, or anything.
But this quarantine is definitely testing me. I'm like, because I always said like, well, don't smoke weed because weed saved my life from narcotics and alcohol. That's the real toxic poisons on this planet. So I've never really hated it. I just kind of wanted to get something out of life first because it just makes me not leave my home. But now that there's quarantine, I'm like, well, this is what it's made for, you know? Like, what's the point? But I'm just trying not to because I smoke like Snoop Dogg, but I'm not Snoop Dogg, you know? I'm like, I gotta get somewhere in life first. I gotta get a kitchen first. I'm in a studio, bro, you know? Like, I can't.
Hey, man, I'm quarantined with my fiance. He's got this fucking sweet apartment. I'm like, this is pretty sweet. His quarantine has worked out.
Yeah.
I know. Back in LA, I got like a fucking basic studio as well. It's like, oh, fucking multiple rooms here.
Yeah.
Like, this is great. I love this.
You have a bathtub that's not disgusting? I could take a bath?
Oh, that's where the issue is though. Because I realized like, oh yeah, I always think of myself as cleaning, as being somewhat neat, and then I realized like, oh no, this is big leagues. This is the big leagues of neat.
I saw this stainless steel stuff behind you. I was like, wow, it's doing.
I know. Because she's a doctor who doesn't do stand up. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right. So if you we're gonna keep moving down here. So if fights, I feel like we've already covered that. The next one is unnecessary male butt shots. Not a lot.
I didn't see any butt cheeks.
That's rare for Van Damme as well.
That's very rare for Van Damme because that guy's got an ass on him.
He's got incredible ass, and you know that I think is what has gotten my fiance into watching these movies with me. I think at first she's like, we're gonna watch Universal Soldier, and then there's a scene in Universal Soldier where he's just out of like, he must have just bathed in just oil.
Yeah, he's always oiled up, dude. You're like, what's
so
going on
oily
over there? Just got baby oil showers and fucking.
I know, Van Damme, did you just audition to be in the Chippendales right before the scene? Like, what the fuck is going on? So yeah, not a lot of butt shot in this, and also not a lot of the girl. Like, there's really no sexiness with her either. You know?
No, she was gorgeous, but they didn't like. There wasn't any moment where they ripped her clothes off, and even in that horrible scene in the beginning, she was fully clothed. And, yeah, no nudity. Hard Target. Shame on you.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
You know? Like, what movie... I almost can't think of a movie that has no romance story.
It's already rated R. Show us some titties and show us Van Damme's ass. Give the people what they
I know,
paid
dude.
for.
You know why I'm here. Let me see them oily butt cheeks.
Yeah.
And then see him get some gorgeous woman come on to him and have him be like, no, I don't have time.
No, I don't need delicious titties.
It's hard to do Van Damme's voice.
It is.
I can't do it. It always becomes like some shitty Schwarzenegger.
It does. Mine becomes everything just becomes Arnold. Not a big accent guy.
All right, so we already talked a little bit about villains. There was Arnold Vosloo was like the henchman, and then Lance Henriksen, who was also in Terminator, who's in the original Terminator. He played Emil Fuchan, and I think he's one of the best villains.
Which guy? I'm bad with names.
He's the main guy.
Oh,
the main
he's
villain.
a good villain.
He's in so many movies as just that fucking. He plays like almost like a white collar motherfucker kind of villain. You know, he's a smart villain, which I always think is like, those are the different kinds of villains, right? Like there's the fucking just monster motherfucker that's scary. But the guy like this who's just savage.
Yeah.
A calculated villain. and he's in it for money, which just makes it even more villainous to me.
And realistic. I thought that several times throughout this movie. I was like, this guy's a badass villain. He's perfect.
Yeah. And he and Vosloo clearly have like a real friendship, because once that dude dies, that's when he kind of like really fucking loses his shit.
Yeah.
Would you be if you were a villain in an action movie? What kind of villain would you be?
Maybe like a Kiefer Sutherland, homeless drifter guy, murderer.
So you see yourself as like a more of like a serial killer kind of.
Yeah.
Good. So that combined with your love of guns is phenomenal.
I just meant my look. Like, I'm trying to think, what would I actually be believable? I would be believable as like a drifter killer.
Yeah, I mean, let's like live. We're looking at your look. You are in like a Zodiac killer type movie, and you're like a guy who comes to like Altamont or like a rock concert. And I'm not gonna be a mastermind behind the, I know. Do you think you are more hero or villain?
I'm more hero, man. I want to be the weird hero that accidentally trips the murderer, or whatever. I'm fine with that. I don't need to be the star.
like you're at a party and you have like a red Solo cup. You're just drinking, and then like just a fucking something happens in the backyard. The guy's running out of the house. You're like, hey, where's the hot tub? And you knock the guy over, and they're like, nice job, Craig.
Yeah, he did it. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with that role.
I could see that, man.
Accidental hero, baby.
Dude, that should be the name of your new special.
Accidental hero.
It's a fucking pretty good one.
I do like that. I'll write that down.
I'd like to say, I mean, I feel like I'm more hero than villain, but I kind of trying to look at the moments in my life where I've done something generally heroic. And when I really try to, like, I was trying to think of that for this episode, I was like, what are some shit I've done where like, because what's cool about this is like, Van Damme, like, yeah, I mean, I guess so many, I wouldn't say just this movie, but so many times like, oh, that happened to you, stranger, almost always young woman. I'm going to just risk everything for you to help you with that. And then Van Damme's not even trying to get later. It's like this really genuine kind of thing. And this one, he's trying to get a little money or whatever. But when I think about the moments in my life I've done that, I'm like, fuck, maybe I am more villain.
No, we don't have that many opportunities. You actually made me remember one. This says in a Van Damme moment, but I worked at Trader Joe's forever. And this one racist piece of shit lady was yelling at my coworker that's a Hispanic woman with a thick accent. She was being nasty. And I just lost my shit. And I just kicked this lady the fuck out of the store. I was like, get the fuck out. And like, I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not a manager. I just couldn't take it. And I just remembered that right now. That was my like only hero moment. And
that's pretty good though. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just standing up for fucking.
Well, and the lady's the sweetest lady. Like like the lady this angry. You can just see the little angry spit right here. You just a monster, sweet little innocent Hispanic lady, being nice to everybody, brings fucking cookies in for people. And then this lady came at her, and I was like, oh hell no, and I kicked her out, and it worked. The crazy lady ended up coming back in later and apologizing to me, not her.
Wow.
It was really weird. I was like, after I did it, I was
did
like,
you kick her in the face?
No kicks. Just kind of said like, I definitely cussed at her and said, get the fuck out. And I kicked her out. And I remember after I did it, I was like, oh shit, I'm probably getting fired today. I got fired at a later date for something different, but I definitely thought I was getting fired that day. I was just waiting for it.
Dude, that's pretty badass, man. Yeah. That's pretty badass, man. I
forgot about that.
How did you handle it? Were you like, was your heart beating a lot?
Yeah, it just happened. It just took over. I just saw it. I was right there stocking the milk box. Anna was stocking bananas. This lady just started yelling some racist shit at her, and I just went like, oh, I just like, when your heart just like, I got that anger, and I was like, I can't just let this happen.
Fucking hero,
well, I'm half Mexican, and I know I look white as fuck, but my mom and they grew up in the projects in Harbor City, and I know they dealt with a lot of racist shit. And a lot of my aunts and uncles aren't a fan of white people, which is just kind of funny because I'm pretty goddamn white, and they're kind of racist towards white people.
I like when I hear people say that, because that is something that I feel like no one really talks about, which is how plenty of other races are also racist against white people.
Oh, big time. My
Big
aunt
time.
and uncle absolutely do not like white people, and they let it be known. But it's just funny because
I used to date this black girl from the Bahamas, and I remember her grandmother, who was clearly like had plenty of white blood in her. She was not entirely black. Like, was saying like, "I don't want you to marry this white guy." I was like, "Damn, that's fucking racist." That's quite racist.
But also at the same time, I get it. Like white people have a pretty bad record.
Look, we've made some mistakes.
We've murdered a lot of people. Not us, but just a lot of murder.
Yeah. All right, we already covered chicks. The main girl, her name is Yancey Butler. There's no hookup. She one thing great about there's this uncle character who they meet halfway through,
my
right?
God.
And he's like so over the top, and he comes to like save Van Damme, and he brings the girl with him for some reason, which isn't clear. And then she actually gets involved and gets a gun, but he doesn't want her to. He just like, no, I'll save you. But then I'm like, why did you bring her? Like now?
No, she did that. Remember, that's what made me so mad. When they get away, he shoots the arrow, blows them up. Then they make a run for it. The people don't follow them because they're going after Van Damme. And then they make it to a safe space where he goes, okay, go that way, call the sheriff. And she said, no. She said no, and then she runs back. I was like, what are you going to do? You don't have a gun? You don't have a bow and arrow?
No, I stand. Okay, I was incorrect. Okay, fair enough, because I didn't really understand why she was doing a ride along.
And then they get to the warehouse where all these guys have automatic weapons, grenades, and then she goes, what do we do now? What do you mean? Go call the cops. You don't even have
what
a
were you
fucking
anticipating?
weapon.
Yeah, like what were you anticipating this being like? Like you knew who you were chasing.
That drove me insane.
The thing that really drove me fucking nuts, and you just kind of touched on it, was he shoots the arrow to blow it up, right? And that brings us to the next topic, which is explosions. I think this movie has pretty fucking good explosions because the scene where we're kind of talking about where he blows up the house, but it's so fucking ridiculous. They know the bad guys are heading to where the uncle's house is, right? So Van Damme heads off, and the uncle and the woman stay behind. And their plan is we'll hide in the forest. After rigging up the house with dynamite, the bad guys get near it, and then he shoots an arrow, which is pretty badass, and blows it up. But your plan is to blow up your own house?
Yeah, I didn't.
There's not a better plan?
That's my home. I thought of that too. I was like, did you have to blow up your home, bro? Like, where are you going to go after this?
It seemed like there had to be a plan that didn't involve blowing up your home.
I thought he was going to blow up the area where the bad guys were, but no, he blew up his own home that not one bad guy was in, by the way. And
that's a very good point. And like there was that was purely just you just blew up your home. Like, your plan to make them feel sorry for you so they wouldn't attack you.
That part bugged me. A lot of shit bugged me.
I was like, I want to see the scene where they're trying to decide the plan. Because I hope there was like 6 other options before they were like, let's just blow up my house.
Yeah. That would be funny if he just relentlessly and then I get to blow up my home? Like, all right, you got to blow up your home.
If you need to blow up your fucking house, yes. Like, yes, it's all working out. Yeah, that was odd. I didn't understand that at all. Yeah, that was strange.
It's a little moonshine operation.
Yeah, that's true. He had a good moonshine.
Remember when he said, "Don't spill it; it'll kill the grass." That was a classic line. I like that.
Yeah, it was definitely a conception of the South that was so clearly conceived by someone who'd never really spent any time there. He's like, they have mullets. They're making moonshine.
You are a fucking buffalo.
That's what the South is. You're like, I mean, no. Maybe like in the 30s?
Yeah.
Is there a lot of moonshine stills? Alcohol is legal.
Yeah,
why is anyone making moonshine
and
now?
Pretty damn cheap.
Right. Why? Okay. Fair enough.
You get a gallon of charcoal filtered vodka for $5. Your moonshine, yeah.
Oh man. All right, and the final topic is one-liners. Which this Van Damme movies are not, Arnold's obviously the king of the one-liners, but there is a great one-liner in this where it's actually in the intro to the show, this show, where you put a bunch of Van Damme quotes together. But one of them is when he's talking to the bad guys. He goes, the guy pops up a knife, and Van Damme goes, so why don't you take your big stick and your boyfriend and get the fuck out of here? And there's a few other ones where he just sort of says some sort of oddly like homophobic, fucking thing, which is sort of like just out of nowhere.
Yeah. That was the 90s, though. Homophobia was in.
You're like, but Van Damme, you're the dude who's not trying to hook up with this beautiful woman who is in your, like in your company the whole movie on a horse.
You're also the guy with the weirdest mullet, which I don't know if that screams gay, but I don't know.
It screams confidence in whoever you are.
Yeah.
You got to be a confident man. You got a pretty confident haircut. Have you rocked that for a long time?
I've had long hair since about 18 years old. Yes.
Wow.
Almost 18 years. 17 years, 18 years. I wanted to grow it out in high school, but there's that long weird period of funky, and I didn't want to go through that in school with buddies that will relentlessly torture you for that,
I got the sense from this movie that a lot of Van Damme's power was in that mullet. Do you feel any of your power is kept in your hair? Sort of a Samson kind of way?
Yeah, man. It's where the funny is, baby. I don't know what I'd do without it.
I mean, you do have a great look. You get on stage and people are just like, oh, this guy's funny. Like, I get it.
Yeah, I definitely will get a haircut later. I'm not going to be like 40 or 50 with long hair. I don't want to be that guy, but I'll rock this as long as possible.
I think you can rock it until you start losing the hair on top.
Yeah. When that happens, it's time to go. I can't.
Who was that comic at the store? It was that young kid, and for a long time he was just like entirely bald, basically, but he still had the
Burner. Jeffrey Burner.
Yeah, that was a fucking insane look.
I was just like, hey man, just be a hat guy, dude. It's okay. He finally shaved his head and he looks fine. It's like, why didn't you do that sooner, man?
I know. It was such a bizarre thing. You'd be like, I was like witnessing a fucking car crash all the time. Like, someone needs to tell him.
No, that's how he is, though. He enjoyed that. He knew.
Oh, he did.
He's just a true weirdo where he's like, I'm going to make it uncomfortable,
I kind of like, right now, I've been, my hair is just getting fucking absurd. And I have like this social experiment going to like see how long and ridiculous can this get, and my fiance will still have sex with me. Like, at what point is she just like, dude, your eyebrows are fucking hanging over your mouth right now?
You
so far, she's on board.
That's not. Well, she's your fiance, bro. That's you got that bad news bear fro going on where.
Yeah, it's getting wild. Would you one of the things of this movie obviously was these homeless guys are so desperate for money that they're willing to do this crazy game where the rich people hunt them down. So in closing, wanted to ask you, what is the craziest thing you ever did for money?
Oh boy, I don't hang on here. I definitely done some. It didn't take much. In high school in anatomy, we were dissecting a frog and I ate the heart for like $5 or $10.
Whoa, really?
But it was tiny and I just swallowed it like a pill. But yeah, I was always that guy. They're like, no one would do it. I was like, I'll fucking do it. Give me the money first. I don't trust my friends, And then just took a little swig of Sprite. It's not right and it's gross, but hey, I was 16 and that's $10. That's a dime sack, baby.
Yeah, dude, $10 is $10 at that age. Hell, it's not bad right now when you're in quarantine making no fucking money. Yeah, so eating a little frog heart for money. That's pretty.
The frog was already dead. Everybody, no right. Animals were harmed in the $10.
Yeah, no, definitely not. In terms of something I'd done crazy for money. When I was living in England, I had a girlfriend over there after the girl from the Bahamas. She was going to school over there, so I was over there for a while, and I ended up getting a job as a bouncer. And I was a lot bigger at the time, but a total pussy, and I've never been a good fighter, and I'm scared of fighting and everything. But I somehow got this job. You don't have to prove you're tough to be a bouncer. Apparently, you just apply, and they're like, okay,
yeah.
But then, like, what I found is like, I'm scared of shit. Anytime a fight would break out, I'd be like, I need to use the fucking bathroom right now. And Just pretend like I don't hear it over the fucking, walkie, So one time I was a bartender in this place called Weatherspoons, which is like the Denny's of bars over there. It's just like a real fucking, wild late night crowds where people go to fucking just like, really just when nothing else is going on, this is where they're going to go turn up and shit. And this fucking tough motherfucker was in the bar and they go to me, they go, look, you got to go over there until I got to leave. And I went up to him, I told him to leave, and he just looked at me, tweaked my nipple, and turned back to his friends. I was just like,
yeah.
Okay. I just went back to the boss. I was like, he doesn't want to leave. He's like, yeah, no fucking shit. That's why I touched you.
I could never be Remember when all the door guys were bouncers at the Comedy Store before they had a team of security? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
These are comics. I'm not a big
ridiculous.
guy, and most of them are smaller than me, and they're not fighters. And they're like, kick that guy out, and they're like, I'm not a.
Dude, I stopped being able to work at Crackers in Indiana, this club I used to work all the time, and I have never worked there since this incident where a guy was yelling like anti-Semitic shit and in the crowd, and then I fucking bashed him like, heckle shit. And then he was hanging out afterwards for me, so I didn't even sell my merch, And I texted the owner. I was like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, you should probably have some security there at night. And her response is, my girls can handle anything. I'm like, yeah. No, the whole staff was like 98-pound women who, God bless them, not going to fucking be able to stand up to me against this fucking racist, anti-Semitic redneck. You know what I mean? And they shouldn't be expected to. And she just thought it was like, my staff. No. It's like, no, you need fucking security, man. You need security at comedy
just two guys. One guy. One big guy. One big tough guy.
Yeah, I don't
Get
want
a tough guy.
Ari Manis having to get tough to save the day.
Yeah, he would have to do that. Ari and Abby coming in, my buddies. We both combined are 300 pounds together. Like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah. Not
get out of here, man. Thank God they got comedy clubs. Get security, police the room, help us out. We're funny.
Like, hey, we're funny because we couldn't fight.
Yes.
We were getting the shit beat out of us, so we had to learn how to defuse the situation by being funny. Get somebody who actually knows how to fight here.
Yeah.
Who's the toughest comic at the Comedy Store, like aside from Rogan, like in a fight? Like, who do you think?
Oh, Rogan, Alonzo Bowden. He's the box.
Oh yeah, he's just.
I got a big boy, man. That guy's
he's
beefy.
huge.
Joey Diaz doesn't look like he can fight, but he looks like he's got a gun in his belt, so I got him on my side. I love me some Joey Diaz, dude.
Yeah, I know. Joey looks like he maybe could fight 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And maybe he could fight now for like as long as that fight is like 14 seconds.
Yeah.
It better be quick.
Joey's it looks like the guy where you ask him, like, how do I get rid of this body? That's Joey,
Oh, yeah. He knows 15
He's
spots.
Like, I got a spot in the woods over here.
Right. Yeah, I know they put in a fucking jacuzzi over there. You can't get that yard is no good anymore. They got to fucking he can GPS it for you. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on, dude. You want to is there anything you want to plug? Are you going to be doing a show in your bathroom later on in this quarantine?
No, that's all canceled. Thank you very much for having me. Just catch me on social media. Craig Conant, all that stuff. Thank you for having me, bud.
Dude, did you lose your headlining gig at House of Comedy?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Because I was at House of Comedy the weekend of this whole fucking national shutdown.
I know. I was supposed to be the following weekend, I believe.
Yeah. Fuck. Just when you thought the coronavirus was nothing but good for everybody, you hear somebody's paying the price. Jean-Claude Van Damme, girl.
Now take your big stick and your boyfriend and find a bus to catch.